Hi, I'm CJ and this is my RC channel. Step 10, we're going to take the 5x25s with washers, lock washers no less, and we are going to anchor this rail up on top here. And another thing at this point, they give us these two little plastic caps. I'm only going to use one of them at this time, and I will explain why in just a moment. They're basically just like a safety thing. You know, this aluminum is very sharp. You could scratch yourself on it, gouge yourself, whatever. So these are like a little safety thing. I'm going to go ahead and put the one that is going to be out at this end here on. But this side is where the roll of filament is going to be. And one of the things that people have mentioned as an issue is the proximity of the jack screw to the hole that the filament goes in right here. You see that little brass aperture there? That's where the filament goes in. And as you can see, it's practically touching the jack screw. Okay, now there are two modifications, 3D pieces that you print yourself. One of them attaches right here, and it provides like basically a channel by which this can pass through and never touch this, because this is sharp. This is going to potentially damage the filament, or you know, it's got a little bit of lubricant on it. You don't want it touching the filament, long and short of it. There's also another thing that someone has designed. There's a couple different versions, choose what you like, that attaches here, and it's basically a little arm that comes out with a hole. And so if you can, let me adjust the camera here. Okay, so we're going to have a roll up here of filament, and the filament's going to come off the top of the roll, and it's just going to hang down here. It could, you know, pull against here, whatever. So they have this arm that comes off and has a hole in it, and that provides a guide midway along the path of the filament. And then you have the piece that goes here, and that protects the filament from the jack screw as well. So those are two pieces I'm definitely putting on. And before I go ahead and mount this firmly, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put the bracket that is going to hold the roll of filament in place. And that is going to require, okay, two 5x8s and two of these slide nuts, or T-nuts as they call them here. I've seen them called slide nuts. Let me just confirm I've got the right piece of hardware there. It's the only thing left, so it must be. And it is. Okay, so this bracket here is going to go up top, and our roller is going to attach to it. Let's see, how does this go? Oh, okay, so that comes off that way. Okay, that's nice and easy. That just locks into place. So there's our roller, and we're going to need two bolts, and we are, yes, this will be 3 meters. Sorry. And I'm doing this now because it just seems easier with these T-nuts to not have the bolt heads in the way and then have to take it halfway off again after I get it on there. Of course, with these twisty T-nuts, might have been able to do it without that. And there goes one of them already turning. God, what a pain. Put as close to the end as I can. as you can see, this all goes together very quickly. It's a very nice kit, and I know I complained about the directions once, but it seems I was wrong. They do give us instructions on connecting those wires. It's not very obvious, but when you get to it, you see it. It becomes obvious. And there's another plus side on this kit. These little blue pieces here, this is one of the first things that people recommend that you print because they aren't included. These fittings, this little white piece, this ring slides out, and it basically locks the tube in place. And without those clips, the white piece can just drop down, and the tube can come out on you. And that was a problem for people, and so they, someone modeled out the clips, and they were printing them out. And it looks like they even gave us a spare print head here, print nozzle. And we got two of these attachments over here. Now, one thing I've heard recommended is getting rid of this and swapping out the fittings as well, but the tube in particular, because this is like just a standard tube, and I will of course provide you with a link. There is a higher quality silicone tube. I think it's silicone. In any event, I'll get you all that information. It's supposed to work better, and it's kind of the go-to item. So I went and got it, and it's on order. I should have it shortly, and that's going to be one of the things that I upgrade on this immediately. So go ahead and let's look at wiring. Now, wiring seems to be a big thorn on the 3 and the 3 Pro. For example, I mentioned at the beginning of the video the fixture that provides a way to keep these cables from running up on, like, see how this cable could potentially catch on here. On the other design, it was more prone to it. That may be why they've got this new plastic piece here. In any event, that was a problem, and so there are fixes for all of these things that you can print out for free or for the cost of the filament. Now, as I was saying about the wiring, here is where they have our wiring diagram. So we just follow the E, the X, the Z, and plug things into the appropriate locations. So EXP3, remember I plugged into EXP1, so I need to switch that, and then go ahead and make all these connections. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on that. How much of that is really worth you seeing, I don't know. I'm just going to get started, and if there's anything that I need to tell you about along the way, I shall do so. And just so I am 100% sure that I am plugging into the right one, I'm going to go ahead and just take this off again. It's only 2 screws. Okay. EXP3. Solid. Can't believe I got the Ender 3 Pro for 120 bucks, or was it 111? Unbelievably low price. Really got lucky there. Okay, that stepper motor is plugged in. We've got 2 motors up here, one here and one here. So, okay. So this one is E. And that is E. Let's see what we've got here. We've got E, we've got X, and we've got other X. Okay, so E goes in here. Okay, long X is going to go in here. Z goes down here, which I already plugged in, and I was correct about that. And we've got other Z over here. And then we've got short X goes into the stepper, the switch. And that is hidden underneath this cover. So there's the missing plug. So this one is going to plug in here. Let's just spin this around. There we go. And this one plugs in here. And this can be done without taking the cover off. To take off this cover, you've actually got to take off the stepper motor itself. Just kind of get it started and push it. There's only 2 wires. It's basically an on-off switch. That's all. In fact, it is exactly an on-off switch. So now this is our wiring bane that happens with any kind of CNC machine. I'm going to go ahead and unplug all of these, and I'll show you why. Just little stuff, but you know, little stuff like this is best dressed immediately. Okay, let me try and get the camera in here. Okay, this cord right here is underneath this cord. Okay, and this cord goes to this motor. This motor doesn't move, so this wire is always going to be here in place. So having that under there, basically I'm losing some of the flexibility of this. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this through. There. And now it is free to move without impeding or being impeded by this wire here. This wire here is also tucked under this, and that is not something I can easily do. So to get to that, I need to unplug this here and here. And if I'd known that, if I'd looked at that, I would have done that from the get-go, and I wouldn't have had to unplug that one. I could have just unplugged this, but no big deal. This is how you learn about your machine, what goes where and why. So for example, one of the things I'll probably do is take a zip tie and group this batch right there. And now this is going to be going up here like this and plugging in. So need to make sure that isn't a problem. I wonder if that should be going over the top, but that might be a problem too. Okay, I'll worry about that a little later when I fire this up for the first time and start figuring out what's catching where. I've got a wire track on order. You can print them too. It's basically looks kind of like a tank track maybe, or a tractor track, that is going to gather some of these wires, and it kind of keeps them from pinching, lets them flex, but it keeps them in line and keeps them from printing, flexing. So let's see, let's get these in the right order again. Okay, so this is our E, that's here, and then X and X. Okay, there we go. Nice, clean. So we'll figure out that little bit of a mess later, and I'll get that plugged in now. We're almost done. And this is interesting. It's like a little, you know what, I'll bet I know what this is for. I bet you this is a cleaning tool for cleaning the nozzle. Maybe, maybe not. I do not know. Let me just review the instructions for a moment and see if I can spot it somewhere. I don't recall coming across it. Okay, it's in the tools list, and it's not displayed in any of these parts bubbles, so I didn't leave it off somewhere, and it must be a tool. And you know, it's another really nice thing that they provide this scraper. You know, I mean, it's not expensive. It's you know, just a cheap scraper, but you know, it's very nice that they throw this, some of these little items in. Sorry, I'm just adjusting the camera. Another thing that they give you is a pair of cutters. If you recall, in the beginning of the video, I was looking at the parts bag, and there was something in cardboard along with the tools, and I couldn't see what it was. This is what it is. It's a little pair of nippers, and these are for cutting filament. And as I recall, on Thingiverse, one of the mods that I'm going to probably be adding, I may or may not, because I'm probably going to do the drawers as well. One of the mods is like a little holster or something that I think up here, where the roller is, that allows you to store these for when you need them. But anyway, as I was mentioning about the drawers, there's this space right here, and one of the many ingenious people who contribute to Thingiverse, in fact, several people, have created either a box or a single drawer. So you've got a little enclosure with a drawer that slides in and out of it. One of them had a pair of drawers. So would have two little drawers that you can store things like these, spare nozzles, spare barrels, connectors, tools, etc. Various things you're going to need for when you're using your printer. You could store cards. If you look over here, there is a USB port and mini USB. That's going to be for programming this and loading up new software or flashing firmware or whatever. And there is a micro SD card slot, and this is one of the ways you can load up your files. Now, another mod that I have seen is a completely new control board that you can put in, and that control board has, I believe, either Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. Might even have both. But in any event, that allows you to communicate with the printer wirelessly. And that allows you to do all the adjustments that you would normally do over here through a web interface. And it offers you more. So there's a lot of more granular settings. And as I start doing things that are more complex, and I need a high level of adjustability to get the proper result from the type of plastic I'm using and the type of item that I'm printing, I may want those more granular controls. So that may be something that I upgrade down the way as well. This may have access to the web interface, but it may just be a matter of plugging into it. So anyway, those are all things I'm going to explore, all things that I'm going to cover in videos and talk to you guys about. So in addition to all the airplane stuff that I'm doing, I've bitten this off as well. So I'm going to be doing a lot of 3D print videos, and I'm going to be doing the laser videos, the laser cutting. Between this and the laser cutter, I'm going to be able to make all kinds of plane parts. So here we go down the road. So anyway, last step, at least from the direction that I'm going, because I skipped this initially when it came up, I believe in step 10 or 11. And I'm going to want to have one of those clips ready. Let's see what size it is. Is it the big or the smalls? It is the large clip. Okay, so as you can see, this moves like that. And when it's out, it's tighter. It's applying pressure to the hose. So the first thing to do is going to be to screw this in. And use their little handy wrench to tighten that down. It has a little compression washer, so it doesn't have to be too tight, and it's brass, so it's soft metal. So again, it doesn't have to be too tight. And go ahead and plug that in all the way. Extend that out. And insert clip. Oop. Okay, that little sucker took a nifty bounce. And it made it to the floor. Okay, got it. And extend, clip, and there, that is nice and solid. It's not getting away. Okay, so everything looks good. Now don't try to move this gantry on your own, of course, because it's got that jack screw in place. If you guys are not familiar with jack screws, they are a wonderful engineering mechanism, and there's some tragedy associated with jack screws. There was at least one really bad plane crash. Jack screws, one of the places they are used was in small commuter jets to control the stabilizer with a T-tail arrangement. So the jack screw would move up and down. It would, there's something, like a bushing screwed around the jack screw, and that would go up and down, and that would move the stabilizer. And there was a bunch of people on a commuter jet, and sadly there were people in another commuter jet nearby, and not just the pilot but passengers witnessed this plane go down because the jack screw had stripped. The threads were stripped off of it. And it failed catastrophically, and it locked the elevator in one position at an acute angle, and the plane spiraled in and killed all on board. And it was a completely avoidable failure because it was a maintenance issue, and the jack screw hadn't been checked, and it hadn't been replaced, hadn't been properly lubricated. Not that that's a factor here, but just a little nugget of history. Some of you may have remembered, maybe old enough to remember when that crash occurred. So, let's see, is there anything else? Well, of course, software. So, other than doing a little cable tying, which I'm not going to do right now. I'm going to wait till my cable track comes in. Everything looks like it's good to go. There's no leftover nuts and bolts except one lone T-nut. I guess they threw in a spare, as they sometimes do. The only parts left over are this end piece, which, as I said, I'm leaving out because I'm going to be putting on that other piece. In the meantime, I might as well just stick this on. It's easy to take off. But that is going to be one of the first things I print, and they provide a small screwdriver. I honestly do not know what for. I have not seen a single flathead screw anywhere, but I'm sure there is a reason for this to be here. Cutter. Yep, nothing left off, nothing left undone. Just got to plug in, load software, configure, and level the bed and do a test print. So leveling the bed is going to be a whole instruction video all on its own. Last step, peel away that piece of plastic so the screen is more visible. And mechanically, it's complete. I just need to plug in a power cord to the power supply, and I would definitely recommend just using a regular PC cord, because this doesn't have a grounding plug, even though it is a three-way. It's a European plug, and for your safety, protection, and peace of mind, use a three-pin plug so you've got grounding. So now all I got to do is load software, plug this into the computer, do all the configuration and whatnot, and then I can do a test run with the test filament provided. Well, I hope you enjoyed this series of assembly videos. If you are putting together your own Ender 3 or Ender 3 Pro, I hope this was helpful for you. Please feel free to leave any comments. If you've got things you'd like to see, issues you'd like covered, please feel free to leave comments below. Please subscribe. Please click like. That really helps. And if you click the bell icon as a subscriber, you'll get notifications every time I release a new video. Thanks again for watching.